everybody, welcome back to the Bill and Ray Show. I'm out in the torch shop to make another marble today. And I don't have any big plans. I'm going to try and kind of keep it simple, kind of back to basics. Let's fire up the torch and see what we can get going. I've got some prep work done, got some color laid out. I think I got all the pieces and parts here that I need. So we're just going to start off by getting our basic gather in a cone shape to start with. And we're going to work our way out from there. So no fancy add-on doodads or crazy plunges or whatever. We're just going to do some fairly simple buildup of layers. I woke up this morning to a drizzly, damp day. I didn't expect that. Got a little bit of mowing I need to do out here, and I was busy yesterday, and well, today should be dry enough to get out here and get things taken care of. But where we are, things dry out in a hurry too, so as long as it doesn't keep raining, seems like it might work out. So the trick with this construction is, to me, it's kind of like just this initial, how big do we start with? Because I'm going to build up successive layers, and if we start with too large of a beginning piece, it's going to get into a big marble. But you don't want to start out just itty bitty. So this is basically going to be kind of a design that I've done a lot of marbles with this basic techniques or concept. But looking back through the videos I've done on this series of making marbles, I couldn't find anything that was really exactly what I'm thinking of. So it's a pretty simple pattern. Just got to decide what kind of glass colors you want to incorporate. And the things I've done in the past kind of relies pretty exclusively, really, of fuming with gold and silver. I'm trying to layer that. But yesterday I was kind of busy. I was out in my other big shop where I've got my electronic stuff, and then I've got an area there where I've been brewing beer. But it's been a long time since the last batch I made. I had some health issues and a little surgery, and couldn't really be lifting things and muscling stuff around, and for some reason my last batch had issues. It turned out okay in the end, but it took a long time to get finished fermenting and whatnot, so it's a little out of practice. And again, like yesterday doing the beer, I was trying to stick to something pretty simple, nothing real fancy. Okay, so we get an initial gather here, and then I'm going to shape up the end into our cone shape to start with. So kind of just keep rotating this until it stops wandering around on me. And we'll use our paddle to come in here and try and going here, turn up the torch. So you're just heating up the outer half, and then you start kind of pulling this edge down. And I'm also trying to kind of drag this out and make kind of a longer taper. Give myself a little more canvas to start with. So this is a sharper angle than you really want most of the time when you're doing a vortex marble, or the shape you want to end up with. Okay, I'll fire polish this just a bit. And we're going to start out with some gold fuming. Okay. Now I've got some 5mm. It's kind of funny how this works out with these diameters, because this is 5mm here, and this is like 8mm. They seem way different size. Okay, let's see. Can I just stripe some clear on here? I was kind of hoping I would get a 5-point established there, and it looks like I did pretty good on that. You could go around and try and set your points along here to see if you can divide it in whatever pattern you want. So, this is the only exotic ingredient. This is the Electrum glass. I still have some of this. This is from Molten Aura Labs. This kind of molten metal looking glass is pretty cool. It kind of depends on what angle you're viewing it. It doesn't always reflect the light, and then when it does, it's very, very reflective. Okay, we're going to set all this stuff down. And we cook these in. So we want to burn out the fume that's in between these lines, vaporize that off. sure how well you can see that, but it pulls off a bunch of that. And then we're going to kind of rotate this and get a little bit of spin going on. And then our end point, we'll pull this out. Okay, I'll let that settle down a little bit, and then we're going to do some silver fume. Try and get kind of a gentle layer of silver fume on there. I'm not going to worry about trying to cook that in. I'm just going to go straight into doing lines. So now this is going to create kind of a cross pattern. So I'm going to ignore lines I already put down. And then we're going to add lines in between. Okay, heat that in. Knock these ends down. And again, we're going to heat these lines in and then marver it down and give it a little twist. And once again, we'll pull out this termination. Okay, let's do a heat. Okay, back and forth, go back to gold. And gonna do a rinse and repeat. Gonna do that same kind of a concept. Draw our lines on straight. Just ignore what's going on underneath there. Yeah, you can kind of see how building up these layers, keep going with this. At some point you can't see down through those layers in the finished marble, so there are limits to how much you can do on this. At some point you're just throwing down stuff that no one's going to see. Well, that's always kind of a concern, especially with fuming. If it's dense, you can't see through it very well. Trying to get a nice layering of not overly dense fume is a little unpredictable. Again, we heat it all the way up. Do a little shaping. In the process of shaping, we do a little dragging. When you get this succession where the inner layers are getting spun over and over again, the outer layers are getting spun just once, until the next layer. Another 5 mil ready to go here in case I get short. Okay, this layer is going to be silver. I was kind of doing this, bouncing the silver through the flame instead of bouncing the glass that it's coming down on. Especially with underlying fume layers, it's a little hard to figure out how much you're putting on there. But hopefully that's a little bit. A noticeable bit. Okay, that one, instead of doing 5 lines, I did 6. Okay, I think I've got everybody covered there. Give it a little squish and a little twist. So that layer I'm gonna kind of opt out of trying to pull off that point termination, and it's pretty hard to tell if that was very much silver that went down there. It's kind of delicate. Okay, so we have some blue-green frit we're going to put down. Start our background. And I just want just a little bit of this stuff. So I need to get this nice and glowing hot. Drop it in here and pick up some frit. It's a pretty even little coat. Okay, get that heated in and let this set up. Okay, who can guess what I'm going to do next? More lines of clear without any fume. I'm going to treat that frit as another layer. That was kind of an uneven bunch, but that's okay. like 7 lines, but they weren't very evenly spaced. Now, as you can see, it's getting kind of bulky on this backside. And we've kind of gone a little bit away from that long tapered cone, a bit more bunched up. Okay, and then we're going to pull this end out. Okay, we're up to the solid color in the background. And for that, I'm going to do orange and just a regular Opaque Aqua, I think this is. So this end's kind of pulled out thin to start with, but we'll just use what we got. So I've got kind of three bands here. Okay, now we need to put down our aqua in between there. Those are kind of spread out a little bit. We should kind of fill in here. There's a few little cracks there that aren't completely covered, but I don't think I'm going to worry about that. I'm going to once again pull out this end. Now this layer I didn't actually go, spin it. Just going to leave that alone. So now we've got a nice tunnel with all kind of different swirls. So that's our interior. Then we're going to do silver fume, I guess, on the back side here before we cover it with clear. Alrighty. Well, that worked out pretty good, I think. Just kind of trying to show how you can use some kind of simple, basic stuff and come out with something pretty cool. Well, we'll see how cool it is, but I can already tell you it's going to be pretty cool. I got an extra long filler rod here. So I checked on my batch of beer last night before I went to bed, and it was starting to bubble a little bit. And this morning, let's see, its temperature was about 75, 76 degrees, which had come down a little bit when it first went in the bucket. It was about 78, and this morning it was down closer to 68, 69 degrees, I think it was, which is what it holds at through the ferment process, and it was bubbling vigorously. So I always love to see it get off to a solid start. And I've got a heated blanket around it with a temperature controller on it. So as long as the temperature of the room stays relatively cool for the next couple weeks or something, it'll get a good start to the ferment. So I do an all grain process, and do the mash and do the boil. But I don't have I got some pretty basic equipment, and I don't have a proper rolling mill to crush the grain before it goes into the mash. But I'm using my it's actually my mom's flour mill. So it's a grinder with a hopper that's intended to grind up grain into flour, and I just have it set super loose, so it does a lot of the grain. It just cracks, which is what you want. But it's not ideal in terms of what it does to the grain, and it does produce way too much dust or flour, if you will. So even with it set really loose, it still it wants to make flour, so that's what it does. So it's not ideal, but every time I get close to buying a roller mill, the cost of it is sort of like, do I really need that? I mean, I've been making beer like this with what I have for years and years, and it works. It's definitely not something I particularly need, but it'd be nice. Every time it kind of drives me a little crazy, but on the flip side, this was a flour mill grinder that my mom had in her house in Washington State, and moved out here to Montana, and was in her house that she lived in until she passed. And so every time I use it, I can't help but think of my mom and all that I inherit in so many different ways from her. So hearing that mill grind away, I keep loading the hopper on about 12 pounds or so of grain through it to make a batch. It's kind of a satisfying process. And then the mash in, I'm just doing that process in a plastic cooler with a custom drain through a mesh, stainless steel mesh. But it's definitely not ideal. It doesn't hold temperature. It doesn't have any heaters in it to maintain temperature, so that whole process is always not ideal as far as being able to hit and hold temperatures. But again, it's worked for years and years. The results pretty good. So I just don't have the kind of fine control over the mash temperatures that do really affect the ultimate product and its main characteristic of how light or heavy bodied it is. But I think my last batch I had some issues with the ferment, and I think maybe because it was a real high sugar content, you know, high gravity. Which I think is, from what I understand, my limited knowledge of such things, is harder to maintain a good ferment. Dunk. It's kind of an all-day process. I've got to get out there at least by 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and hopefully get done by 4:30. I make the yeast starter I make in a flask, and I've got a little stir table that it sits on. Keep it stirred up as it starts out. And that little stirring deal I got is actually kind of a little kit. I think it was somebody here in Montana who was selling these kits for a simple stir table. So the inside there is a little fan, is the motor, and you attach some magnets to the fan, and then you have the basic speed control on the fan speed inside a little plastic housing. And then you've got one of the magnetic stir bars inside the flask, and spins it up. So it doesn't apply any heat, it doesn't control the temperature, but that doesn't matter. It's not there for that long. It'll be pretty good, somewhere around 70 degrees. Alright, getting this filler glass melted in, and a funny low spot here. But this was also the first time I've got the propane burner. It's a big burner that sits on the floor to do the boil, and that's out in the open part of my big shop. And then the sink and all the other stuff is inside my enclosed space. So it's, you know, I don't know, 30 feet, 40 feet or something between the two stations. And in the past I've struggled to carry by hand things back and forth, but this time I got out a little furniture dolly and cleared a path so I could roll things back and forth. And when I first was thinking of doing that, I thought, well, it's going to be crazy sloshing it around, but it worked out just fine. It rolled real easily. It's just all cement floors out there. So I've got to be careful and come up with more ways to protect from, so I don't have to lift and carry everything so much anymore. Okay, this end, I kind of kept the clear glass away from the end a bit, so I'm going to just heat that end and let gravity pull that clear glass around that point. Hopefully you can see that. It kind of sharpens the inner cone. As long as that little end point doesn't have any clear on it. But now I've kind of elongated the whole thing, so I'll kind of come back to the other side and try and kind of bring this back. Kind of see the heat bias and working on that larger diameter, trying to get it to kind of fall back a little bit and widen out. At some point you just kind of let her go. Move on. Okay, we got our backside color. I'm going to start with some Aqua Mist, I think this is. And I got a pretty raggedy edge up here on the top, so a lot of that's going to be ripped off. So I'm trying to just follow where the clear ran up onto the color. And leave part of that end that's going to be out in the lens and gets torn off. So I'll be curious to see how much the colors that I put in that background, the orange and aqua. See how much you see that color from the inside. Those fume layers and such could kind of obscure that. Okay, next up is Unobtanium. And then the last color is purple amber. I think that's what it is. Purple luster. It's an amber purple color. I always hope to get at least some actual purple out of this. It may not show any real blues or purple color. You can't really control the heat cycles of this type of glass. So sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. As far as, it always works. It does something. I hope everybody is doing well. We're doing pretty good here, I have to say. We live in a pretty special place. We've got things pretty well organized in our lives at this age, but we've got quite a ways to go before we can totally chill. But we keep it pretty chill around here. Kind of blast this color, trying to get that purple luster to go translucent. This is the first phase of difficulty with colors like this. It just, in a marble like this, it's really hard to get it that hot. Once it's that hot, things are out of control. So we get something there. Some of these steps you can tip it up as you're letting it cool, and it'll move quite a bit. Alright, now we need that core to chill out. Whew. Coffee's kind of cold by now, but that tastes good. Alright, try and blast through this rake. Okay, well, we drooped off center a little bit, but otherwise in good shape. So we'll try and get this back in alignment a little bit before we move on. Alright, looking pretty good. Even though it's a little wonky here. That's alright. I try and prep these rods, but every once in a while it gets this crack just a little ways back from the end. So I'll try and get that ready again. Alright, so we're going to match, I think this vertex here is actually pretty decent alignment with the interior. It's quite a ways off from the exterior. Okay, try and build up this front lens. You have to kind of recenter your holding puntee and get kind of this swirling geometry. We're getting there. A lot of glass here. Okay. Okay, break that loose. Now we're cooking. So kind of clean up this transition edge. Kind of peel it back along this line. Come back around to where we started. And come up with a clean patch there. Sometimes it's kind of hard to see where you're going to come back around to the starting point. So when the glass gets really hot, it glows. You can see kind of different characteristics in the flame. And the goal here is to get all the outside surface glass. It's been all condensed up and bunched up. Clean that off and reveal the glass on the inside of the rod. It's always more pure glass than what's on the surface. And this is kind of akin to sanding on woodwork or metalwork, just getting rid of that surface. Okay. I think we got it. Okay, give this a little spin. I dropped it in our marble mold. Oh, this guy's big. Alrighty. It's a big marble. Would it wax in fancy construction or makes it for in size? Okay, we'll flame off this other punty on the back side. Break that free, I kind of hang it down. Well, this is always kind of a time-consuming part of it, trying to get that acorn shape into a sphere. At this stage, you really got to get the heat soaked in. And once you get that much heat base, the whole thing gets a little out of control. So I'm trying to get it to kind of bunch up, shorten the through axis. Okay, when we go in the marble mold, we'll kind of go horizontal. This gives us our next odd shape. I'm trying to preserve that deep tunnel effect. We're getting toasty here. Okay, next step is we got to try and suck up that bulge on the end. Now, because we're using pressure and stuff, we've got kind of a little bit of an apple shape where the punty is pushed in on the front lens. So some of this seems kind of counterintuitive where I'm hanging it down. I've been trying to get it shorter, not longer. And sometimes you have to kind of exercise the glass and let it pull one way after another. Get the whole thing a little more pliable. Because now we can start getting this pretty close to its finished shape. Still kind of flat on the front lens. And a little bit of a saddle around the circumference. Little by little. This one, oddly enough, you can see right through out the bottom just a little bit. Okay, we're pretty darn close to the shape we need, so we're going to let it cool down a bit. Now these last couple steps, this really kind of relates to the amber purple colors you put on the back side. You just have limitations as to how much heat cycling you can do. So you kind of just get what you get. Okay, let the whole thing chill here for a second. Yeah, so even that Electrum glass, it's kind of a gray, silver, and go towards kind of a bronzy look, depending on how it's been heated and treated. And but this is set behind a little bit of gold fuming, so I'm curious as to how that turns out as well. Okay, trying to go gentle here. Give it a moment before you hit it in the marble mold and let it kind of firm up this surface. And I think we're about there. About an hour and a half working on this. Okay. Well, I'm pretty happy with the way this marble ran today. Didn't have any big huge ideas today. I wanted to keep it kind of something kind of modest. It's kind of a layering method that provides a lot of interest and is pretty straightforward. Doesn't require anything too crazy. Okay, get this guy off of the punchy. Pretty big, it's got a lot of heat still. Okay, well, call it good. Whew, okay. Need a little extra heat around the end there to see if I can do a little heat effect on the purple luster. And the kiln cycle is going through, it's not going to go up to a higher setting, which probably would be a good idea on this marble, but I don't want to mess with the kiln cycle right now. So just see how that turns out. Thank you all so much for hanging out once again. You guys take care of yourselves, take care of those around you. And we hope you have an awesome day, whatever you're up to. Be kind, and we will see you on another adventure next time.